Chief. All right, Deborah. Great to see you.
Test. Test. Test.
All right, we're going to call to order the City Council meeting for Monday, June 20th, 2022. Before we get into number 2, the city will be inviting local elementary or preschool students to lead the Pledge of Allegiance once monthly. Please nominate your student to lead the Pledge of Allegiance at the second council meeting of the month by contacting the city manager's office at 793-5532. And tonight we got a young man that's going to do just that. His name is Owen Sharping. So we're going to have him come on up by the flag. He's going to take the mic and he's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So the show's yours, Owen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And there, Owen. Good job. All right, going to number 3, that is roll call. Jamie.
Jeff Dahlke.
Here.
Tracy Coach.
Here.
Bill LeClaire.
Here.
Darla LeClaire.
Here.
Tim Petrie. Jason Ring.
Here.
Bonnie Shimulinis.
Here.
Scott Steckmesser.
Here.
Adam Wesky.
Here. We're going to skip over number 4, seeing everyone's here. We also can skip number 5 as there is no public hearing. Going on to number 6, input from the public. Anyone wishing to address the council on something that's on this agenda or something you'd like to see on a future agenda, please step up to the podium, my right, your left, state your name and address for the record, and we will open up the public input. Yep, go ahead.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Joe Baton. I'm a local business owner here in town with my wife. For the last year plus, we've been looking at opening up a rental business here in town, looking to, oh, I'm sorry, Bill, go ahead.
Get your full name and.
Sure. Joe Baton, address 10200 Francis Creek Road, Two Rivers. So we've been looking to open up a rental business, been planning this for the last year plus, looking to kick it off this spring here. We're going to start with golf carts plus a few other things. Last minute, as we were going through prepping for our license with the city and all that, we overlooked the insurance piece that was in the ordinance. Obviously, renting them out is a commercial use, and it's a very limited kind of insurance type of group that handles those types of claims. And we've been having a pretty substantial challenge just even getting any insurance company to give us a quote to currently meet what's in the city's ordinance. And there's a number of reasons for that. Number one is how high it is. And number two, obviously it's a very common thing in the southern states there. None of those insurance companies will insure in Wisconsin, just the way the state licensed golf carts. They won't for that particular reason at all. So it limits the pool much smaller. So the current policy, it's $1 million per occurrence, $3 million overall. The best quote we could get is $1 million per occurrence, $2 million overall, which is very common for general liability policy for any business. And even that, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars. We did look at a few dozen other ordinances in the state of Wisconsin just to see how the city of Two Rivers compares. It was about 50-50 split on whether they required insurance or didn't mention it. And the majority of those that did mention insurance, it would just say, you shall have insurance. It just didn't have a cap to it. And nothing I've seen came to kind of the level where the city's at. Certainly, if it was like my personal golf cart insurance, you could hit that criteria, no problem. Obviously, you get into bigger risk management when you're talking about the rental piece of it. So been working with the city's officer, chief, kind of making sure we understand what we're getting into here on some of this stuff. My understanding is the city is in favor of this type of business within the town here. But what we've kind of run into is we're just struggling to meet this cap. So I guess the ask of the city council and the city here is to maybe revisit that ordinance and see if there's something more reasonable that could be put into that. So that's just my ask. Hopefully that was enough background on it. Any questions for me?
No, but I think that is something that we can possibly look at for our work session.
Yeah, I was just going to say Chief Kohlmeyer had reported back on me on his discussions with Mr. Baton and with a local insurance agent on the same subject. And we can't say we'll have it resolved next Monday, but I'll count on it. It will be on next Monday's City Council work session agenda, which is open to the public, streamed live, and here at 6 o'clock next week, Monday, the 27th.
Okay.
Yep. And you'd be welcome to attend, Joe, as would anyone else.
Perfect. All right, appreciate your time. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. Anybody else wishing to address the council on something that's on this agenda or something you'd like to see for a future agenda? All right, seeing none. Council communications, any letters or other communications from citizens that any council member would like to share with the rest of us? Jeff?
I had several again. When I was at the grocery store last week, I believe, a woman approached me and she wanted to know how much it's going to cost for water usage at the new splash pad and who is going to be paying for that.
Okay.
Greg, you have any idea?
I don't have a number off the top of my head, but I'm meeting with the project landscape architect on Wednesday. I'll get you an answer. Clearly, the intent is operation of that park would be part of the city's operating budget, just like irrigating ball fields and other things, but I'll get you a number.
Okay, thank you. And I had several people message me. They were for the front yard gardens and one person was against. So that was another one. So some of the neighbors on that 19th Street property that we had talked about at the last meeting, they just wanted to say thank you to the police department for handling that. And they said it's pretty much cleaned up now and it's not such an eyesore. Another one, quite a few people had contacted me about this one, that there's a lot of chatter about the bad-looking rental properties in town. And they want to know if there's something that the city council can do, since they are rental properties, to hold them accountable for it and possibly mandate them to update their properties and keep them looking up to par with the rest of the city. Anything you think that we can do on that?
We've just touched on that, to be honest with you, at Plan Commission. The thought was, once we got through the recently adopted ordinance on short-term rentals, vacation rentals, if you will, it would be appropriate to begin at least that discussion about long-term rentals, residential properties. So there are some constraints on what cities can do, as I understand from the state legislature, imposed downward, but I'm not going to say we'd bring that next Monday for the work session, but that's something maybe for the July work session. We could at least show some examples of what some other cities like Two Rivers have done in that area. I would agree wholeheartedly. That's a concern. Other council members have given voice to that certainly at other times.
Okay, and then my last one, a gentleman approached me and he wanted to know why some people on council are so against opinions being validated from Facebook posts, especially if they are from the Two Rivers page. There's one that you are from Two Rivers. If those are only current or former Two Rivers people that are allowed on that page. And they said they work second shift. So they said, what about the second and third shifters? Doesn't their opinion matter? They can't make it to any of the meetings. So they want to know if we could possibly have some conversation on that and let those conversations hold some water.
Are we talking about us seeing them as council members and communicating back with them? Or are you talking about as part of the live stream?
They can't make it to meetings and comment, or because they are at work.
Right, so you're looking to bring those comments to council?
Well, they just want some validation for comments that are made on social media, because they said we're in the social media era now. So those should be, especially if you can validate them, where they're from. And Scott, me and you had talked about that. If there was a way that we could, this was my conversation with her, we were thinking we could possibly have you need to show that you are from Two Rivers, and we can have conversation like that on social media for people that cannot make it, for the second and third shifters.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a problem at all. I just wasn't sure if you were talking about the live stream, like we're currently live out as responding to them
No,
as the
these are
meeting
just
goes
people that
on.
were concerned they couldn't come to meetings
Sure.
because they just can't physically make it. They have to work.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we are in that generation where Facebook's, Twitter, all those things matter to a lot of people, and that's how they voice their opinion.
Right.
I think it's just another way to get input from the public, is what people have been saying.
Yeah.
But as long as we can validate that they're from the city.
So-
Two Rivers, like we do now when someone comes up, they give their name and address. That's how we validate who they are. So not that we're getting comments from Florida or California or something,
Right.
but
I don't see issues with that at all.
That would be something we need to maybe figure out how we can set something up Whether it's another page or,
I guess there's, if I might, there's a couple of things. There's a question, what weight do you as individual elected officials put on that form of input? And I don't know how we govern that. That's up to each of you. I guess I'd suggest if somebody can't attend a meeting, just like we have provision that you can call in, you might also make it clear that there's an email address, which is also digital. It's not quite the same as Facebook, but somebody could certainly direct their comments, say, to the city clerk in advance of the meeting, and they could be shared. I'll leave it to council whether you want an official on-ramp for Facebook. I'm not minimizing the significance of Facebook, but there might be a way to make it just a tad more formal, but still it's digital. It could be done anytime, 24/7. If you want to share views specifically with the council that you think ought to be weighed here, there are other ways to do it besides showing up at the meeting.
I mean, maybe even a form of Facebook Messenger where it's privately submitted to a council member, almost just like an email.
Well, if you're thinking it's because you want a public forum, we could make a message board of sorts as well. It wouldn't have to be necessarily through Facebook. And I don't know if you expect us to count heart or poop emojis based on how people feel about an issue. But I think it's great when somebody gives their address and name when they're making comments rather than using a fairly anonymous, sometimes anonymous Facebook platform.
I don't know if we want to talk about it more at a work session or not, but
We can throw something on the agenda for that, make it brief as to maybe some criteria that we can talk about as to how to, so everyone's on the same page.
Next Monday.
Sounds good.
because they were right. I mean, we're in the social media era now, so it's people's way to conversation, have a conversation with us without actually having to physically be here because they can't get here sometimes or most times.
Don't we give that on the city account where
Bill, if
people
you-
can make comments even during the meeting?
Right, but if you're on second or third shift, how are you gonna do that? You're either working or
Well,
sleeping.
I mean, but they can,
And people in recent months haven't been able to comment. We never responded to them. I mean, there never was up. And I know that's not what Jeff was looking for anyway, but in fact, I was kind of surprised one night when somebody came here and said, I make comments during your meetings and nobody responds to them. Well, we didn't really have a mechanism set up for that.
You have to be kind of careful too. You don't want to create what's considered to be east outside of a duly noticed meeting.
Especially if council members start responding
Right.
on Facebook to those city policy issues. Yeah, that gets a little tricky. Maybe the city attorney could be present for next Monday's work session if we're going to have that as an item. But I'll just put it there generally, consideration of ways that council can consider input through various social media, including Facebook, something that basic. Okay? Sure.
I don't think we're looking to respond to people and have a conversation back and forth. From just some of the people that approach me, I think it's more of just sending ideas, public input type stuff, just a different way. And I know you can do it for telephone and emails and stuff, but it was just another option.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Anybody else? Any communications? All right, on to number 8, council reports from boards, commissions, and committees. Anything anyone wants to report on from their respective committees or boards? Darla.
We are going ahead with finding a Main Street executive director. That's going really well. We've interviewed a couple of people. One gal just came up from Illinois, actually. She's looking to relocate. She's got family in the area. And she came up on Friday so that we could all meet her. You know, she'd already had 2 phone interviews. And so what I can say about that is she's a good candidate. But we really have to get going on this because our current executive director is only going to be here until July 1st. So we're kind of in a critical situation, but that's not going to affect any of our events or any of the things that we do to help out local businesses or anything like that, because you've got a board of interested people and passionate people who are picking up a lot of stuff. And then as far as EAB, that is going to be this week. And we've got a lot to talk about. And we do record those sessions. So if you ever want to know what EAB is up to, you could always go to the website and find out. So yeah, it's all good.
All right, thank you, Darla. Anybody else? Bill?
Backwards with.
I'm told that's probably going to be sometime in July. We're still waiting for verification from the contractor that they got all the parts, all the valves and fittings for the water main and services notably. Given recent experience with supply chain issues, we've become insistent on that. And last we heard, they aren't looking at a start till maybe mid-July. We'll give you an update probably on the July 5th meeting agenda.
Anyone else want to report? All right, then on to number 9, city manager's report. Greg.
Okay, we have several invited guests tonight. First, I would note that Betty Bittner is detained on the road returning from the weekend. And however, she has from the Two Rivers Rotaries 2 very capable stand-ins to address the status of their fundraising for Central Park West 365. And that is Gene Andrews and Steve Denzine. I know there are other Rotarians present as well. They're the spokespeople, I get it.
Good evening. Good evening. No, so thank you so much for having us. Obviously, Rotary has been a huge part of Two Rivers for many, many years, and we've had a great relationship with the city, helping to support it, encourage it, and well, we've both prospered from it. So earlier this year, when Central Park 365, when the funding came out for it, we were very enthusiastic about it and excited. So we made a pledge of $65,000 towards Central Park. Today, we're giving you a check, and unfortunately, we didn't meet that need completely. We're most of the way there. We actually exceeded it. And the way we exceeded it is not only the 2 Manitowoc clubs, the Sunrise and the Noon Club, helped to donate both $1,800 a piece because they see the importance and the great light that Two Rivers is shining. So they're helping to increase us. So today we're giving you a check for $58,600 towards Central Park 365. That comes from $40,000 from one of our members that anonymously donated. And then the remainder is from our club and the other Two Rivers, or the other 2 Manitowoc clubs. And the remaining $10,000 will come next year for you. So.
Could I ask the council president to join me for a photo op while we have these good people and their check?
Absolutely.
Besides, it looks like a dry erase and we want evidence.
It is. It might go away. You never know. So.
Library Director Dawson will.
Oh, there you go.
This trustee phone. It's not rusty, trustee.
Thank you so much, guys.
Okay, next up, we do have the introduction and swearing in of our new police department detective, Megan Clumpion. I will note in advance that our new patrol sergeant, Bradley Dimmick, is out on patrol yet. Is he? He's here. Okay, he has arrived. Yes, but he was out on a call till very recent. So actually, over to you, Chief Kohlmeyer, for both of those introductions. Oh yeah.
Thank you. So I'm pleased to introduce Megan. Come on up here. Don't make me stand up here all by myself. So this is Megan Clumpion. You might remember her. She was hired here back in 2016. So she's got about 7 years of experience. Actually, anniversary just a week or so ago. She's been a patrol officer, and most recently for the last several years, she's been a school resource officer up at L.B. Clark School. She was recently promoted to the position of detective, and we are here to swear her in tonight in that new promoted position. This is a permanent position. It's not a temporary assignment like our investigator. She'll be the second of two formal detectives that we have here in the department. Her mother is actually going to pin the badge on her tonight, so I asked her to please step up here also. Lots of family for the two officers tonight. And Jamie.
I, Megan Clumpion, who have been appointed
to the office of detective
to the office of detective
in and for
the city of Two Rivers,
the city of Two Rivers
in Manitowoc County,
but have not yet entered
upon the duties thereof,
swear that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
and the Constitution of the state
and the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties
of said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
For sure.
Congratulations.
Doesn't sound professional enough.
Okay, Bradley Dimmick, Sergeant Bradley Dimmick. So Brad's been with us since 2017, about 4.5 years with the department. Brad's been a patrol officer and done an exceptional job at what he's done so far. We have a lot of hopes for him in his position as a sergeant and hopefully things to come. So tonight we're going to do the swearing for Bradley Dimmick as patrol sergeant.
I, Bradley Dimmick,
Who have been appointed
who have been appointed
to the office of patrol sergeant
office of patrol sergeant in and for the city of Two Rivers, County, have not yet entered
upon the duties thereof,
swear that I will support the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States,
and the Constitution of the state of Wisconsin,
Constitution of the state of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully
discharge the duties
of said office
of said office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
So help me.
So help me God.
Hopefully that'll be the hardest.
That is the hardest part.
Well done.
So a lot of changes over the last couple of weeks, the new hires and promotions. And so a lot of exciting things happening in the police department. And we can't be more pleased with the personnel and people we have in our supervisor positions and in our line positions. So thank you.
Thanks, Chief. Next up, I did want to provide council with some follow-up during input from the public last week. Justin Dustin Johnson from the Fireside Pub stopped in to express some concerns about the status of his liquor license. He did stop in later that week. I was out of the office and he met with our community development director, Ms. Runge. Dustin followed up last week and he and I met on Thursday as well after I had discussions with the building inspector and the fire chief. There is a significant outstanding code issue at the Fireside in that there is not a functional boiler for the building. And that's an issue that actually has been going on for more than a year. It was first identified in the spring of 2021. The old boiler basically got taken offline on the advice of furnace or boiler contractor following an inspection. And there's not presently an adequate code compliant heat source for the building. Now, you may not need heat today or tomorrow, but that is an outstanding code issue. And also matters will need to be reviewed as far as makeup air and that sort of thing. I think it's fair to say, based on my discussion last week with Mr. Johnson, that he understands that if July 1 comes and he has not obtained a satisfactory inspection, his license, which was approved by council contingent on a satisfactory outcome to his inspection, that license will not be issued until the code issue is dealt with. One concern he had that I was able to give him some relief on is that if he gets approval for a new heating system and that approval comes, say, a week, a month, 2 months after July 1, does he still have a license? And I was able to assure him he most definitely does. The council approved the license with that contingency for inspection. It effectively is on the shelf. The city clerk can take it off the shelf and issue it upon getting that inspection report. He has identified the possible ability to heat the building from a rooftop mounted unit that presently is only used for air conditioning. That will require some follow-up with the building inspector. And that frankly was the best, I told him was the best I could offer him. I'm not empowered to waive life safety codes and the city council isn't either. But I know he did indicate he was pleased to know that the license wouldn't go away. I mean, in all honesty, Two Rivers has about 10 licenses available. We're not anywhere near our cap on licenses. City attorney did point out to me in a discussion this afternoon, our own ordinance does generally provide that a license once issued will lapse if there is no activity at the licensed premises or use of the license for 6 months. That even can be extended though upon action by the council. So that's where it stands. Certainly the city building inspector and the fire department inspectors are willing to step things up as quickly as we can if activity is undertaken to comply. But at this point, we've neither seen a signed contract for the needed upgrades nor has a permit been pulled. So we'll continue to keep you updated on that, but that's about the extent of what we can do as the city.
I think city staff has been very generous. Obviously you don't want to hurt any business, but it's been a year. So, I mean, it's been noted. He's had some time and obviously we got to stick with code enforcement on that. That's if you do it for one, even though we don't have the power to make it go away, but even if we did, if you do it for one, you do it for all. So.
We want to be business friendly, but on certain of these issues, it's hard.
Jason.
If he gets repairs made and something in place, is it something that building inspection can go over there relatively quickly, or does he have to schedule an appointment?
The inspector's typically here. She deals on an appointment basis, but she's here typically on Tuesdays and Thursdays. The fire department inspectors get over there. I've no doubt they will make it a priority. Okay. If he's had work done and a final inspection is the only thing standing in the way of reopening. Be assured of that. So, okay. Thank you. Okay, as far as my weekly status report, first off, she shared it out on Facebook on different pages. Thanks to Catherine Egger for this great Sunday morning sunrise photo of Two Rivers. On other things, staffing updates, our new Parks and Rec Director, Mike Mathis, his start date is getting closer. It is next week, Monday, June 27th. We already have Andrew Sukawati as our new electric utility director, and we bid Ross Blaha farewell on June 16, which was his 8-year anniversary of service with Two Rivers, and capped off 30 years of over 30 years of experience in water utility operation. He darn near broke our Facebook page, if you notice the number of likes and comments on Ross's retirement. As I reported previously, Jim McDonald, our city engineer and public works director, has given me his formal statement of intent to retire September 2, and the recruitment is underway for that position right now. Those are some big shoes to fill, and Jamie has got the ads out on that. So we are on an ongoing way. We're recruiting for that public works director, city engineer position, for a full-time community service officer, reviewing budget at mid-year, the police budget, although things like fuel are hitting all departments. We had at budget time said there'd be a serious evaluation of the ability to fund one full-time community service officer in lieu of 2 part-time positions, and that recruitment is underway now. And we've got plenty of things for that person to be attending to when they're on board. And then we still have 2 seasonal openings in public works. So if you know someone that would be interested in working now, mid-June through November, we would welcome applications. There is a new format for electric utility bills that are now, the batch that will go out next week will be the first ones identified as Two Rivers Utilities. The typical billing detail is shown on the left is still there, but there is also a comparison on electric and water consumption for the current billing period and for the similar period 1 year prior. On the second page of the bill, there's also a 12-month history of electric usage as measured in kilowatt hours and water usage measured in hundreds of cubic feet per month. So that is information that is available both on the bills and will be available online for customers. So also a couple of good-sized fields there for messaging. The public hearing on possibly allowing, excuse me, ATV and UTV use on city streets. Excuse me, council set that at your last regular meeting for August 15, 6 p.m., the second regular meeting in August. That hearing is being publicized in the June and July utility billing inserts. The first one of those goes out for print tomorrow. It will be accompanied by a fact sheet on ATVs and UTVs, quick summary of the statutory definitions and information from some of the past reports, staff reports that have been presented to council. As noted in the little insert there, individuals present at the hearing will be allowed up to 3 minutes to voice their opinions. We're assuming if there's a good turnout, the chair may invoke that 3-minute time limit. So it's probably a good idea to prepare for that. And it again notes that written comments ahead of the meeting can be submitted to the city clerk via email, and we have Ms. Jackson's email address, or the regular mail address if you want to risk a week or two getting something across Two Rivers, which seems to be the norm right now. Jamie is sharing those communications as they come in on a weekly basis with council, and that will keep up. We also noted in the utility billing insert that if people have questions they'd like answered as they develop their opinion on this proposal, they can submit questions to the clerk as well, and staff will do their best to answer those questions. And out on the website where this information will be included, there'll be a Q&A section. So that trying to be responsive there. And I think that pretty well covers it. That hearing again, Monday, August 15, the regular meeting right up front at 6 o'clock. TID 17, the council approved a preliminary resolution directing staff to begin work on tax incremental district number 17, and staff has begun work on that. It was discussed briefly at Plan Commission last Monday regarding the possible boundaries for this district. This redevelopment, pardon the typo there, redevelopment tax incremental district is intended to help address the need for gap financing for the proposed 55-unit West River Lofts project. And the Plan Commission public hearing on this should be, did I get that right, Elizabeth? The July meeting will be the PC public hearing. Thank you. I apologize, August 8. I was winging it when I put this together. We'll get this corrected before it goes out on the web. On the right, you've got a rendering, an elevation rendering of the proposed building, and the proposed district is shown in the map above that, basically taking in all of the former Eggers West, property, including the 3-story industrial building that remains on that site and the 3.5 acre greenfield site immediately to the east of that, which is where this building construction is proposed. Again, my apologies, that public hearing will be August 8 at Plan Commission. Leicester Public Library Summer Reading Program. The library staff always does an outstanding job with the summer reading program, but I've got to say the artwork and the decorating and promotion associated with this year's summer reading program, which features a nautical or under the sea theme, has been outstanding. And I would point out, it's not just for little ones. There are categories for youth ages 0 to 11, teens 12 to 17, and adults. There are components for all age groups in the summer reading program. And I think our library representative, Tracy, had something to share on this one as well.
Yes, you sign up to be in the program. And if you read just even one book, you get a special pen. Those of you in the audience can't see it. It is a tentacle from an octopus. Use the library, it's awesome.
Either artificial or humanely procured tentacle.
It's rubber.
Yep. So, outstanding job again by library staff for this year's summer reading program. I mentioned it in the utility billing insert newsletter this month, and I'll mention here, have had discussions recently with our police department and community service officers about this through the summer, stepping up enforcement of our solid waste ordinance as it relates to storage and placement of refuse, as the ordinance calls it, also known as trash or garbage, and recyclables. Some of the common violations that we see are an accumulation on the property. The ordinance provides, that's why we have weekly trash service, that you're not supposed to keep more than enough to fill a 32-gallon container on your property for more than a week. We don't go out and police that regularly, but it means if there's 10 or 15 bags piled next to your garage, we got a problem. Other issues that we do see are provisions that when stored outside on your private property, garbage is required to be in a rigid metal or plastic container, a garbage can or a toter. We do too often see garbage stored outside in plastic bags where it's more vulnerable to rats, mice, and other vermin, seagulls, if you're into rivers, getting into it. And that just, that's a problem in the neighborhood. Other issues are the ordinance does provide that trash and recycling containers are to be kept as far as possible from public view. And that means, however convenient it might be, not stationing it next to your front step so you can walk out and do this. Sometimes the neighborhood doesn't much care for that. There is provision if there's a practical hardship with the property. Oh, I should add, as far as possible out of public view and not in a front yard or street side yard if you're on a corner, unless there's a hardship and someone can get permission from the Public Works Director to place their trash or recycling container in those locations. Then I don't know that we see this a whole lot, but we just reminded people of the ordinance requirement that your trash or recycling containers should be out at curbside for collection no earlier than noon of the day before collection, and they should be taken back in by noon the day after, which actually is a pretty easy requirement, I think, as most city ordinances on trash go. But it does respect that people work shifts and other things, and that can be a factor in just putting the garbage out or when you bring it in. So we have developed a standardized notice that could go out with a photo of the violation, with a copy of the relevant ordinance section. The police department is going to be discussing with the municipal court judge, adding specific fines, because right now this is under the general penalty provision of the ordinance, which says $0 to $1,500. That's kind of a big range, and I sure hope nobody gets fined and they won't, fined $1,500 for a trash violation. But I'm, as the chief here, losing track of. Okay, the bond schedule there. They are asking the municipal court judge to cite specific penalty amounts for these. So if there is a ticket, it's, I don't know, 25 or $40 instead of 0 to 1,500, which also means writing a long form complaint. But we do get a lot of complaints on this. It's kind of 101. The garbage goes out of view. It needs to be stored in rigid containers. So we're reminding folks again, and the intent is certainly the first notification would be a warning, but then there would be provision of the ordinance language. And in the future, there might very well be a penalty if that continues.
Is that one where it could step up should that person commit that violation multiple times within the same year? Or if they set it at 25, is it going to be 25 each and every time?
It could be.
Okay.
I think that can fall within the court's jurisdiction. If not, we could come back and actually amend the ordinance to provide for such.
Okay.
I'll follow up on that. That's a good point, Adam. So I don't know. I don't think this is just my pet peeve around town, especially just placing the garbage cans right out front seems to be getting more and more common. And it does have an effect on neighborhood appearance where people are trying to keep their places up. Happily, we don't see too many instances like the violation on the right, but that was from Two Rivers. Shifting gears, there are a number of new Two Rivers logo items for sale at the beach and at various downtown outlets at the beach. There are beach umbrellas, beach balls, and towels, as noted there. And at other retail outlets, there are some of the t-shirts and other things that are shown there. There is a strict accounting kept for this as far as dollars out and dollars back in for sale of items, and that's available. In fact, we should be doing a periodic report to council, which I'll make a note of. Central Park West 365, we heard from Rotary earlier this evening. Donations received within the last 2 weeks include the Kiwanis Club at $1,000, Gray Owl Construction, $2,000, Sovi's Auto Service, $1,000, Shoto Corporation, $1,000, Jim Reef Builders, $1,000, and Insight/Cellcom, $750. Hope to have some additional significant naming gifts to announce by the first meeting in July on the 5th. As far as the status of fundraising, we're at about $560,000. You've heard these before, but the major naming gifts have been spoken for. I know talking with Mayor Jim Schmidt and some of his family a couple of weeks ago, they're somewhere north of $70,000 in their fundraising for their $100,000 pledge. We know the Rotary is within eyesight of reaching their $65,000 goal. And we've got commitments for $50,000 from Bank First, the Picnic Island at $25,000 from Fox Communities Credit Union. Other naming opportunities, a lot of they're not small, but I'll say some of the smaller naming opportunities have sold out. 3 umbrella picnic tables at $2,500. There are 3 ornamental light poles left at $2,500 each. One of those is sold. All 13 of the park benches that'll go in front of the Schmidt Brothers stage have been sold at $1,000 a piece. All 20 trees as of today, the last one sold at $1,000 each. Movable picnic tables, 4 at $1,000 each, are all sold. What does that leave available? Well, there's those 3 ornamental light poles. There is the pavilion building. If you got $250,000 rattling around in your pocket, we're still looking there. And there are numerous opportunities for plaques on the seating wall. These are plaques that would go into recessed panels with some form work on that seating wall. And depending on the size, those are either $10,000 or $15,000 each. Bricks will be sold. I expect we'll be selling bricks after the project is done even, but you see there the breakdown of 56 4x8 foot bricks sold so far, 17 of the 8x8 inch bricks, and 11 of the 16x16 bricks. Those are $1,000 with text only, $2,500 if you want to put a logo, family crest, or other rendering on there. So it's coming along well. We know there's a ways to go, but hopefully have some more good news to share at the next meeting. I really want to be able to come to council at the latest by the end of July for authorization to get out for bid on this project. And whether we'll say we've met the fundraising goal or there's a little bit of a leap of faith there remains to be seen, but things are coming along well. The intent being bid the project this summer to allow for start of construction this fall and wrap it up in the spring, early summer of next year. Concession stands at Neshota Beach and Vietnam Veterans Park are open at the beach. It's 7 days a week, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., at least from now till Labor Day. They'll be open later during bands on the beach and other city-sponsored or city-organized events at the beach. Vietnam Vets location is presently open just Monday and Wednesday evenings when we have some of the larger turnouts for various youth and adult, I think mostly youth sports there. The Vietnam Vets location remains available for rental by tournament organizers when there are large tournaments that come in, and they pay a decent fee for the use of that concession stand. So get on out there and support. They also have a lot of the Two Rivers logo wear and gift items that I mentioned earlier. New kayak launches. We're trying to make better use of our river trails that we promote heavily. 2 new kayak launches, one from last year's budget, one from this year's budget, will be going in or have gone in at Vets Park and at Paddlers Park. You see there in the photo the installation at Vets Park. And the new launch is supposed to be in at Paddlers this week. The rails that you see there on the one at Vets Park, while very sturdy and quite adequate to help get your kayak in the water or out, are a temporary fix while we still wait on the permanent aluminum extruded, I think they're extruded, tubular aluminum rails to go in. But these were provided by the installer, the installation company. So that's that. Upcoming events, it's summer all of a sudden, and we've got a slug of them this Thursday in Central Park. It's Sunday, Thursday, 5:30 to 8 p.m. Entertainment for the kids, municipal band, and 25-cent ice cream sundaes. Friday and Saturday of this week. Friday evening is the Cool City Classic Car Cruise from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. Again, up the lakeshore from UW-Manitowoc to downtown TR, with cars parking up and down Washington Street, and then the car show on Saturday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. The senior center's doing a pancake breakfast, and there'll be the usual activities associated with the car show. Just pray for good weather. Also, pray for good weather for Beach Bash, which is Friday and Saturday of this weekend, 5 p.m. to 11:30 on June 24th, Friday, and noon to 11:30 on June 25th. There is it's a Two Rivers Youth Sports fundraiser. I think Mr. Wahusky could speak to it. There's supposed to be an incredible Prince tribute act that's featured. Help me out, Adam. Is that on Friday night or Saturday?
That's Friday night.
Friday night. And Saturday features?
Smart Mouth.
Smart Mouth. Thank you. So carnival rides, games, beverages, food, all for a good cause down at the beach, Beach Bash. Also, kind of a once-in-a-lifetime thing, the Shoreland Baseball League 50th anniversary celebration, Saturday, June 25th, 11 a.m. to 5 p.m. over at Walsh Field. And that will include the induction of Two Rivers baseball great Howie Tim into the Hall of Fame. And all former fans, current players are invited. That's over at Walsh Field, late morning and then all afternoon on Saturday. The Two Rivers Optimist Bike Rodeo is coming up in Washington Park on June 28, next week, Tuesday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. That's in conjunction with our police department. And over in Central Park West, the Sugar Bush Boys, June 30th, next week, Thursday, 6 to 8 p.m. And since we don't have another meeting, well, we've got a work session, but not another regular meeting until July 5th, just a reminder, Independence Day, July 4 at Walsh Field starts off with the flag raising at 7:20, goes on through a concert with the community band, sponsor appreciation with all of our sponsors for the fireworks, and then a patriotic sing-along led by the Clipper City Chordsmen. Fireworks at 9:30. The biggest, most in-your-face, while safe at the same time, fireworks show in Northeast Wisconsin over at Walsh Field, right here in TR. Monday, Independence Day, July 4th. One other item by way of update, funding for local street and road projects through the bipartisan infrastructure bill on June 7 DOT came out with a press release on awards for projects in cities and villages under 50,000 population. We were disappointed to see that Two Rivers did not have any of the 40 projects that were funded. They funded 40 out of a total of 306 total projects. By the way, just looking at the list real quick, and I can forward it to you, there were no awards in this category to any local units in Manitowoc County, Sheboygan County, Kewaunee County, Door County. There was one in Brown County and one in Calumet, as I recall, but our neck of the woods didn't see a whole lot of funding under this first round. We have also applied for funding for the upcoming fiscal years, 23 through 26. That review is ongoing by DOT. So stay tuned.
This one include the road by the beach. that
Shoda
we
Road?
Yeah, the Shoda Road that we share in conjunction with the town.
It did, and the town of Two Rivers had indicated their willingness to pay 20% of the town share. We did, as the DOT program guidelines allowed, we did resubmit those projects we'd applied for in this round, in addition to those the council authorized for the upcoming round. 40 million or 35 million in the scheme of things isn't a lot of money out of the, I think it's 1.2 billion the state is getting for 5 years. It's going to be interesting to see how much of that ends up going to the state for state projects and how much of it goes to the larger municipalities. So keep an eye on that. We've been in some discussion with Senator Jacques' staff about this too, because it's a lot of money and we want to make sure we get our share for here in Two Rivers. But round one was a disappointment, but I would say we're not alone in those that were not funded. Constant reminder, and you see window signs up and down the main street and in businesses elsewhere in town. Again, still the best place for complete up-to-date information on Two Rivers events is exploretworivers.com. And if you see one of those posters downtown, they've got a code for scanning on there, and you can go, that'll take you right to exploretworivers.com. Finally, as we part, we would note that the Raider manufacturing classes at Two Rivers High School, which are doing some really cool metal art things. You can see a great selection over at Schrader's. Also have done one promoting the city using our Fish Dog logo, and those are available for purchase. In fact, they have a summer program, which is good because we're all out of them already. Lisa just ordered 48 more today. They're available for, when they're available for $25 each. And we intend to have more here at City Hall and at the Main Street office at 1612 Washington Street. We also provided them as gifts to the 8 official representatives from our sister city of Domažlica. And I think we've seen photos back now of all 8 gardens where they ended up in the Czech Republic. So this one was courtesy of Jarka Vekova, who is an English teacher that accompanied the group. You might have met Jarka at some of the gatherings. So that's all I have for this evening, unless there's any questions. Nothing under legislative intergovernmental update for tonight.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on to 10, which is the consent agenda. Under A, presentation of minutes, we have one, which is the city council meeting for June 6, 2022. The recommended action is a motion to waive reading and adopt the minutes. Under B, minutes of meetings, we have 4. The recommended action is a motion to receive and file. Under C, department reports for May 2022, there are 11. The recommended action here is a motion to receive and file. D is a summary of verified bills for the month of May for $1,358,405.48. The recommended action is a motion to receive and file. Under E, applications and petitions, we have an application for temporary Class B licenses for Two Rivers Main Street Incorporated for Brew Dash at East Central Park on August 6, 2022. Another one from Two Rivers Main Street Inc. for Brian Lee Memorial Blues Fest at West Central Park on July 9th, 2022. There's another for Rogers Street Fishing Village for Rogers Street Days at 2100 block of Jackson Street on August 12th through the 13th, 2022. We have a new application for landscaping / tree removal license for the period of June 20, 2022 to June 30, 2022. Is that correct? Just 10 days? That is for Clarence Davids and Company at 22901 South Ridgeland Avenue, Matson, Illinois, 60443 for the zip code. And we have a renewal application for landscaping / tree removal license for the period of July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023. We have two applying for that. That is Chris Lewis Tree Surgery, P.O. Box 1564, Manitowoc 54221. And one for Clarence Davids and Company at 22901 South Ridgeland Avenue, Matson, Illinois, at 60443 for the zip code. The recommended action here is a motion to approve the applications and authorize the city clerk to issue the licenses. Under 4, 3 applications for commercial hauler's license recommended for approval. We have Pazorski Hauling and Recycling at 2515 V-Bond Street in Manitowoc. We also have Waste Management at 1861 Alloway Avenue, East Green Bay. And another for Manitowoc Disposal Inc. at 1800 Johnson Drive in Manitowoc. The recommended action is a motion to approve the applications and authorize the engineering department to issue the licenses. Under F, we have a noise ordinance waiver from the Two Rivers Kiwanis Club for Two Rivers Fish Derby on July 15th through the 16th until 11 p.m., waiving the provisions of sections 9(2-5B)(2)B regarding noise audible within an enclosed structure used for residential purposes, and section 9(2-5D) pertaining to vibration. The recommended action is a motion to approve the request as submitted. Under G, a noise ordinance waiver request from Rogers Street Days on August 12th through the 13th until 11:30 p.m., waiving the provisions of section 9(2-5B)(2)B regarding noise audible within an enclosed structure used for residential purposes, and section 9(2-5D) pertaining to vibration. The recommended action is a motion to approve the request as submitted. And finally, under H, schedule a public hearing for a conditional use permit for a drive-through restaurant at 1210 Washington, submitted by NIV LOC 1 LLC and MACH IV, which I think is 4 or 5 in numerals, Engineering and Surveying LLC. The recommended action is a motion to schedule a public hearing on Tuesday, July 5th, 2022 at 6 p.m. as recommended by the Plan Commission. The recommended action for the consent agenda is a motion to approve the consent agenda with the various actions recommended. I'm looking for a motion on this.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Do I have a second?
I'll
Scott?
second it.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, that brings us to number 11, which is the city council formal items. Under A, city manager's appointment and reappointment to boards, committees, and commissions. We have one of those for sure. That's Larry Thomas to the EAB to a term to expire 2024. Do you have one to the bid district?
I do, if the council wishes. Actually, there are 2 vacancies on the Business Improvement District Board that typically meets once a year to review the Main Street budget and recommend to council the assessment for the Business Improvement District that in the downtown area that helps fund Main Street. Both those vacancies were not at end of term, but came about because either businesses either were sold or closed. Bob Fox had been a member of the bid board, and of course he recently sold the business and would not be eligible for membership. And then Chow Chong at Unique Flying Objects had been a member. His term was not up either, but Chow, of course, closed down the business. There is a requirement in business improvement district plan that the folks on the bid board be owners of either businesses or properties, i.e. landlords or business owners in the downtown area. So I got confirmation today. One of the invitations I'd extended to serve on this board was to Teresa Cromforce from Schrader's, one of the owner operators there. So if it please the council, they probably won't meet till October or November, but if you wish to approve that one tonight, there still is one more vacancy I'm waiting to hear back on from a party. So.
Okay,
Yeah,
I think
would
we should
request that.
include that in on there. Jason, do you have a question
Yeah,
for
I just
Greg?
had one question. You might have touched on it. Because I don't know that Chow was the owner of his building. How was it that he was on the plan commission or on the bid committee? Did that change since he
It
joined?
provides that that all members of the board be either owners of real estate or businesses located in the district. So under that criteria, as a tenant.
Okay,
A
so you
tenant
could be a
business.
business owner and represent the bid.
Right.
Okay.
And who really pays the bid assessment? You know, is it the building owner? Is it the?
Well, I would
is it the
imagine a
business?
business owner passes that on to the tenants.
Yeah, so we typically have allowed for either.
Okay.
In some cases, it's both, you know, like.
I would like to think there's a mix of both on there, or we're leaning more heavily towards the business owners who are the ones that are writing that check.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're looking for a motion to approve Larry and Teresa. Do I have a motion for that? Thank you, Bill. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Bonnie. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, thank you very much for that. On to B. Ordinance to repeal and recreate Municipal Code Section 2-7-10 relating to destruction and preservation of public records, to adopt Wisconsin Public Records Board's General Records Schedule. The recommended action is a motion to waive reading, adopt the ordinance, and direct the city clerk to notify the Public Records Board and Wisconsin Historical Society of the General Records Schedule adoption. Do I have, or Greg, do you have anything you want to add to
No,
that?
actually, I was going to say, Ms. Jackson, our city clerk, has been working on this to update our ordinance, and Jamie may have some comments on it.
I don't have a lot. I just am gearing up for a project of cleaning out our personnel files, and I want a very clear-cut number of years on how long I need to keep them. So that's kind of what geared this up. But why recreate the wheel when the state tells us exactly what?
Makes sense. Looking for a motion on that. Thank you, Tracy. Second by Jason. Any discussion? Seeing none, it is a ordinance, so we will do a roll call. Jamie?
Jeff Dahlke,
Aye.
Tracy Coach, Bill Leclerc, Darla Leclerc,
Aye.
Tim Petrie, Jason Ring,
Aye.
Bonnie Shimulinis,
Aye.
Scott Steckmesser,
Aye.
Adam Husky.
Aye.
Motion carries.
On to C, we have a zoning code provisions related to produce gardens in front and street side yards. The recommended action is a motion to affirm no change to the existing ordinance as recommended by the Plan Commission June 13th meeting. Greg, do you want to add on to?
Not a lot, really. You've got those minutes from last Monday's regular June Plan Commission meeting in your packets with 5 of the 7 members present. There was discussion. Plan Commission was unanimous in its recommendation that produce gardens remain prohibited in front and street side yards. The Plan Commission also noted that the initial citizen contact, and thank you for reminding us of that, Councilmember Coach, who was at the meeting, that came out from a citizen, also had talked about making publicly owned properties available for vegetable or produce gardens. And the Plan Commission's recommendation, as reported in the minutes, I hope, because I'm going from memory, I didn't read the minutes, also was that the city should endeavor to make city-owned property available for additional community gardens if there's demand out there. The community gardens on the undeveloped portion of the cemetery have been very well received. If there's community demand for that, the city owns other properties, not in the public right of way, not the terraces, not the boulevards, but other public properties where community gardens could be established.
That is pretty much what we talked about, and I think we did confirm that there are 1 or 2 still available in the cemetery. And we would agree to have those extended if need be, if there was demand to do so, because there is a lot of property at the cemetery and, I mean, a lot of property. So it's not all being used or being used anytime in the near future.
I think it's fair to say from the discussion that the thought was, yes, you can have other things that might make your front yard a less than desirable neighbor. There's other things besides vegetable gardens that could do that, but there was a concern that there was considerable potential with produce gardens, if not properly attended to, becoming a negative within the neighborhoods. And there are other alternatives, notably, they're not the same, but the community gardens. So that is the recommendation back from Plan Commission. Obviously, going forward on this is council's discretion. If council feels otherwise, I would still suggest the Plan Commission, if given that direction, contrary to their recommendation, would be happy to weigh in on some standards for that. But the recommendation, again, from your Plan Commission is status quo.
Yes, Darla.
Okay, I think it's wonderful that we have community gardens. However, there are people who can't make it over there, whether it's transportation or they have small children that they have to wrangle if they're and do their planting or harvesting at the same time. As I've said before in the past, we have properties in town where they either have an extremely small backyard or the backyard is so shaded that nothing grows. And I was thinking about this the other day, and what kind of came to mind was back in the 40s, we used to have victory gardens. In fact, back then, around the state capitol in California, in Sacramento, it was a victory garden all the way around. And I'll tell you what, right now, it's not like we're fighting overseas, but economically, we're in a big battle. And a lot of things that we take for granted and we pay for, the cost has become exorbitant. And I would like to make a suggestion that this go to the EAB so that maybe we can come up with a program. And have some guidelines as to raised beds, 25% of the front yard, the side yard, and have some provisions for what's acceptable and what's not, but have people sign up for it so that they can be monitored. So I would like to be able to have that opportunity at the Environmental Advisory Board to come up with a proposal.
Yeah.
I'm with Darla on this one. I was just talking with the ag manager at Lakeside Foods. Seed prices next year are guaranteed to go up 20%, and that's not the end of it neither. All that gets passed on to the customers. So vegetables are going to go up more than what they already are. And I think if we were to run with limit sizes, limit height, and raised beds in the front yard, I don't think there will be any issues, because if you're taking the time, money, and the effort to build yourself a raised garden, you're going to take care of it, because it's an awful lot of work just to do that in itself. And not only that, I mean, you look at some of the flower gardens that are in people's front yards, they look nice for a couple of weeks, but what happens when the flowers are gone? Now you have plants there. No different than what a vegetable garden would be. So I think we're kind of missing the boat here if we don't allow that again. And from a lot of the chatter that I heard, people are just mad because more city infiltration on their privacy of their private property. They're paying the taxes on it. They should be able to do, for the most part, if they can keep things looking good, what they want, because they are paying property taxes on their stuff.
I also want to say too that, we have such a thing as free will, and we own our properties, and the majority of people take care of their properties and they want to be proud of their properties. And seriously, I mean, as a council, who are we to impede people's ability to grow their own food and to feed their families where it's not ripping their wallet out of their pants pocket? So this is something that's very important. I hope that everybody thinks long and hard on it. And I don't know, if you give me permission to go ahead with this in EAB, I will have something, at least some sort of an outline as to what we plan on doing at the work session.
I will reply to that quick and then we're gonna jump on over to Jason because he did have his hand up. If EAB does take this, I think it still has to go back before Plan Commission because it is under their advisory, from my understanding, and would have to come back again before council. And I understand that they pay their taxes on that property and they use it for food, but how far do you extend that? Do you start letting people farm and have chickens and roosters and pigs and goats? And I mean, there comes a point at the same time where it also becomes a nuisance to your neighbor that also pays the property taxes and also wants to have a nice neighborhood and a nice yard. And I see where both of you are going with it, and it makes sense to a point, but at the same time, I can also see how it can impact the neighborhood and or neighbor for some people that don't take care of it. So that's just my comment back to you. And then I think it does have to go to Plan Commission after, if we do decide to have it go.
Yeah, I'll defer to the city attorney. I think that would be prudent because if the Plan Commission recommended no change, if there is something, which ultimately, at least part of it would have to amend the zoning code, it would probably be best that it go back there. You can heed, ignore, or do a mix of the two on what they advise. But I'd concur with Adam on that.
It's typically within the jurisdiction of the Plan Commission, changes to zoning ordinances. So I think appropriate.
Okay, Jason had his hand up. Go ahead.
Yeah, as a council, we regulate a lot of things in property owners in the community. So raised gardens or gardens are just one of those things. You can only have one feather flag in front of your business. I learned that today, talking to a business owner. Other businesses have been cited for having non-complying signage in front of their business. There's a lot of things that we oversee like that that's not popular with people, but we do that for a reason. Although I think maybe the reasons and the signage things aren't right either. But where I was going initially with this is maybe there a compromise that we can already do without having to change the rules? I don't know, does the ordinance allow for a mobile or non-permanent raised flower bed or garden bed in somebody's property? So if the bed was raised and had wheels and it could be moved to an out of sight area after the growing season or once things die off, might that be allowed already and be a way that somebody could have a garden in their front of their property, but if it becomes a nuisance, could easily be removed or put somewhere where it's out of the way? So I think we may not have to change any rules. We just have to find a way to work within the law that's there. So if that's something that your committee would want to research, you may be able to come back without having even to go to Plan Commission if you can find a way that goes with city ordinance.
As you stated with wheels, that would probably fall into other rules that they have, that you can't have anything with wheels parked in, not in the driveway or something else. There's a lot of control of a lot of stuff.
I have found one product on Wayfair that doesn't have wheels, but it could easily be moved out of the way if it was a nuisance.
Don't think there's anything as it relates to wheels themselves. Probably cars and stuff like that,
motor
right?
vehicles,
But not
yeah.
wheels as in, because, yeah, right.
I think the key question with regard to Jason's point is, and I hear what you're saying, it's essentially, it's a portable cart device that is
non-permanent.
Maybe at least when it's sunny out at that time of year. I'd defer to the city attorney. Probably, it might still qualify though. What is the land use? The land use is gardening in the front yard. So I don't know from a practical standpoint if a movable device located in the front yard, but I'm sounding like a bureaucrat, but that's what they pay me to do. That still is a use of that space for that activity, although that might be part of a solution like Jeff has suggested and others have. My quick take is that it'd still be a device, or it'd still be a land use. You know, if I can't do auto repairs at my house, I could still be on a dolly and doing an auto repair versus converting my garage to a repair facility, and I think I'd still be in violation.
Well, you're talking about gardening.
Yep.
It be deemed accessory use. Certain respects.
think it
Hope
would,
I'm exactly.
I think it would always be an
understanding what-
accessory use, and that's where we are right now. It's not allowed in front or street side yards.
Right.
That's what we're talking about, not a parcel being used exclusively for ag.
I don't know if that's a use issue, though.
I-
mean, you're talking more nature of setbacks and restrictions. Certain things. But I'm trying to, is there anything in the ordinances currently about?
No, I believe
Photos,
that
gardens, I mean,
the
it
construction is, and the past discussion of this has been, if a
Right.
use isn't listed as a permitted or conditional use,
Right.
it's presumptive that it's prohibited. Yeah.
True.
So I don't,
Just wondered because the wording here says motion to affirm note. I wondered if a reference was made to a particular
no,
ordinance
I don't
governing
believe, I
it.
believe the existing zoning ordinance, which does not provide for produce gardens as a use in front or side yards, I don't think there's existing language to be changed. It would be effectively the addition of language saying in front and street side yards, you can do this.
Tracy.
I'm a proponent of vegetable gardening in general, so, and I've driven around the city and seen some very well-done, smart pots and whatever in their front yards. And there are vegetables you can grow, you would never even know they were vegetables. But I think I saw on your agenda for Wednesday night that those kinds of green infrastructure are on your agenda at the EAB, right?
We have a lot of things on our
Yeah,
plate
so,
for, yeah.
I support the idea of the EAB coming up with some guidance and then sending it back to the planning commission, because I think it's very doable, addressing all the concerns like erosion control, so we don't have the soil going in the street clogging up our sewer system, and watching for pests. I think it's very, I have both flower gardens and vegetable gardens, vegetables in the back. But I'm all about being self-sustaining.
Yes.
I did some research on this too, and it is very, very environmentally advantageous to have vegetable gardens. And if you can't have them in your backyard or your side yard, well, I mean, taking away that benefit. So that alone should justify enough to send it back to the EAB. And then if you think about this another way too, I mean, like I said before, your flowers bloom, they're gone, and now you just have a plant. Tomatoes bloom, they have flowers, and then you have colorful fruit. Same thing with peas, they bloom, you have fruit. Beans, they bloom, you have fruit. Well, you know what? What's to say you can't say those are my flowers? Because they have flowers on them. People want to get around it. I mean, there's my flowers.
I would just like to find a happy medium, because right now it's either it's black or it's white. And I think that there has to be a little bit of give and take. And that's why I'm saying if we have a program and we agree on what is acceptable and what's not. And I'm getting this gut feeling that it's not going to matter what we come up with. It's just going to be shot down. I'm just getting that feeling. And if we take the trouble in AAB to really come up with a good program, I really hope the Plan Commission takes it to heart and tries to work with us. But I'm concerned.
as chair of the Plan Commission, I can assure you they will take with all sincerity and due diligence anything that comes back from the council and the EAB. Saying no does not, I'm just going to say, doesn't mean they're just rejecting it out of hand. I think they've given it on multiple occasions thorough discussion. So in defense of the Plan Commission.
And we did discuss it quite a bit on Monday, and I know Bonnie and Tracy were there, and it wasn't just a flat out, no, go away. We did have a good discussion about it, and I know afterwards I said, once we kick it back to council, they may come back with some recommendations. And I know I threw out there the fact that maybe we do create some tight setbacks, and we have it so that it's in ground, you know, so like a potato or a cucumber. Or, you know, maybe we only go with such a restrictive height as to maybe a tomato plant that only goes like very minimal in height. And I think that may be a common way or an easy way to try to start this per se. And then you hate to permit everything, but maybe a permit wouldn't be a bad idea to hold those people kind of accountable. Maybe it's a cheap permit to have that front yard garden, just so they know that they have to take care of it or that permit kind of goes away. Make it so it's not expensive. We're not trying to gouge anyone by doing it. I think it's just more or less maybe accountability for that, just because it does impact neighborhoods. And I know you may not have heard from those people recently, but in the past, it has been a problem.
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of where you're going. Force the people by a case basis, show their plan. The city could okay their, as long as they're staying within guidelines where terrace, blocking view, a ton of houses. Special situation. EAB would be willing to do it where people show their gardening plan or whatever and pass it on to wants to have a garden, but they're going to do it very tastefully and take care of it, you know.
Carla, I think Tuesday or on your next EAB meeting, I think Kathy will have some of that research that was
Okay.
on the benefits. And also other communities, a lot of communities allow them as long as they're taken care of. But I like the permit idea. I mean, for a 10, 20.
I would say
Well, you know exactly where they are.
keep it cheap. You know where they are, and we're holding them accountable. You don't do what you're supposed to do in accordance to whatever those guidelines are. It's easily revoked, and you can't do it anymore.
I think the plan commission will be happy to look at it. I just was going to add one more plug. This is the same plan commission that brought you new regulations on urban chickens and urban beekeeping. So, yep.
They're allowed 5 chickens, I do.
They're not, yep, just no roosters.
But no roosters.
No roosters,
Yes,
correct.
urban hens. Let me be more
So
specific.
do we want to kick this to EAB to make a recommendation to have plan commission take a look at this and then send it back to council once both of those commissions are done, or commission and board are done looking at those? We need some kind of direction here because the recommended action is to affirm no change.
I'll make a motion to send it to the EAB for review also, and then they can communicate with plan commission.
Okay, I have a motion by Jeff. I'm looking for a second.
seconded.
I heard from Tim first. I'm sorry, Tracy. So we got a first and we got a second. Any other council discussion on this particular
One
motion?
thing, I want to recruit Jeff and Tracy to help out on this, even though they're not on EAB. So just think about it.
Oh, I was coming to the meeting anyway.
Anyone
because
can
of
come to the
programs.
meetings.
Okay.
Yep, that's,
be
it's
awesome.
open to the
Yeah,
public.
I was gonna come to the meeting.
Might want to look at, and we've got time to do it, amending the agenda tomorrow, because I wouldn't suggest discussing urban gardening provisions under the heading of green infrastructure, because I think most of us assume that's public. So, Jack?
Go ahead. Yep.
Just for information regarding code provisions on produce gardening, there are some, and they're in the height and area exceptions portion of the zoning code, section 10.1.15. Subsection 6 says currently produce gardening in front yards existing prior to August 1st, 2016 are allowed. Construction in front. Said front yard gardens may not be expanded. New front yard gardens are prohibited. That may have been what the reference was to in the agenda, that particular portion of the. Also subsection 7, which says produce gardening is permitted in street side yard. Do not approach into the minimum required street yard. So there are
Our
provisions in
specific
there.
provisions. Thank you. I apologize for overlooking that.
If some of them houses, well, where is my front?
Well, there's that's.
Where's my backyard?
The zoning
There are
code has a
definitions
definition
in
for
the
that.
zoning
Because
code.
there are some places like that, and there will be a few more the way it looks.
right, any more other discussion on this while he looks that up? If not, we're sending this over to Jamie for a roll call vote. Jamie?
Tracy Coach,
Aye.
Bill Leclerc,
Aye.
Darla Leclerc,
Aye.
Tim Petrie, Jason Ring,
Aye.
Bonnie Shimmy-Lunis.
Aye.
Scott Steckmesser.
Aye.
Adam Husky.
Aye.
Jeff Dalkey.
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, good discussion there. If you find that answer, we will get right back to you. But we're going to move along and we're going to get out of here shortly. Under D, Idle Sites Grants Agreement with Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation for $250,000 to assist with renovation of former Paragon Electric Facility at 606 Parkway Boulevard. Recommended action is a motion to authorize the city manager to sign the agreement on behalf of the city. And we'll kick it over to Greg.
Yes, you have the agreement in your packets. This is a result of the work of our Community Development Department. As you know, we've discussed many times pursuing the Idle Sites Program, which is just about made to order for the Paragon property. It's meant to assist with redevelopment of large, long idled industrial sites. Good work by Elizabeth, our Community Development Director. The provisions that, as this would pertain to the requirements of Trivers LLC, the owner of the former Paragon property, have already been addressed in a development agreement approved by the council on April 14 of this year. So this is the piece between the city and the WEDC, because much like was the case with the community development investment grant that you approved 2 weeks ago for Cool City Brewing, the city is the pass-through entity for idle sites funding. So we recommend approval.
All right, we're looking for a motion on this. Thank you, Scott. Do I have a second? Thank you, Bill. Any council discussion? Should be a pretty simple one. So all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right, motion carries. Jack?
Thank you. There are definitions on yards in the zoning code as well. Section 10-117. Front yard extends the full width of the lot between the front lot line and the nearest part of the main building, excluding uncovered steps. Rear yard extends the full width of the lot, being the minimum horizontal distance between the rear lot line and the nearest part of the building, excluding covered steps, except on corner lots where the rear yard shall exclude the street side yard, which extends to the rear lot line. Then there are definitions of interior and street side yards as well. I don't know if that provides any insight with respect to your property, but that's how it's defined.
Are we gonna have to amend anything?
We would have to amend those provisions I referred to earlier, about produce gardening and as it is prohibited unless there was one in 2016.
Okay, that answers that. On to E, Public Works Committee recommendations regarding parking and traffic control measures in the area of West Park Street. Looks like we have two recommendations.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Sorry, I spoke too soon. Go ahead.
Okay. We have one for on-street parking restrictions recommended by committee to remove current 2-hour restriction from West Park and from south side of 18th, north side of 17th between Adams and Washington. Recommended by city manager would be to retain the existing 2-hour restrictions.
And again, I apologize. I did not see the Public Works Committee minutes until Thursday, just before the agenda went out, and I defer to what the council wants to do on this, but I was kind of left scratching my head, and committee members can fill us in, I guess, on why the existing 2-hour limit that applies on West Park now and would presumably apply to those diagonal spaces to be constructed on West Park, notably in that area, why that would be lifted, effectively making the area all-day parking, if I understood the minutes correctly. I wasn't at the meeting. I understand there was some discussion from the assistant police chief about the practical difficulties with staffing of enforcing parking, although we talked earlier tonight about a full-time community service officer who surely wouldn't be doing parking full-time. But that was the thought, because the effect of this would be to open up a lot more areas around the community house and a new business and the post office to all-day parking. And I guess I just wasn't sure where the committee was coming from on that one.
Well, we thought that 2 hours wasn't enough time for people to enjoy eating a meal. Longer than 2 hours, main reason. Sampling a lot of beer maybe, and so first got to pick that driver to drive the car, but we just figured you'd probably be there longer than 2 hours.
I guess I'd just encourage maybe some more dialogue on it. I know, talking with one of the owners of the new business, the lack of any time limit was a concern. You know, you do get into things then like potentially employee parking for people in the area. You could park all day. I would point out, if the concern was about folks enjoying Central Park and the amenities there currently is no time limit on Washington Street from 17th to 18th. This block out here is conceivably, well, there's no limit. It could be all day. But again, I'll leave that to the council. It's just, I know I've been known at the post office to park on the south side of 18th Street when the spaces right in front of the building are full, or when you're headed the other way. Similarly, it means the area right in front of the community house on 18th Street, where people do stop, run into the rec office to register for a program or something short term, would be longer term. Maybe it needs a little tailoring. That's my only suggestion.
And then under 2, it's handicapped spaces. That was also discussed at that meeting, and they want to designate the southernmost and northernmost diagonal spaces on West Park Street as handicapped spaces.
We did that mostly. Was have to have a van. Would be closer for people that are going into the park than the other.
Details.
The north end was more because it's wheelchair accessible seating up front right before the stage. So it makes it easier for them to get out there and go.
Before we get in, at the first year we were talking with Greg, as Greg had a recommendation. So we can talk with Greg, but we can't talk amongst each other until we have a motion on the table. That's okay. So we need a motion on the table before we discuss this. Do I have a? Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Now, council discussion. Sorry, Tracy, didn't mean to cut you off.
That's okay. That's okay.
I'm gonna go to Tracy yet. Let her finish up.
No, I was just saying that, and then the other parking spot makes it wheelchair accessible or handicapped accessible closer to the restrooms. And that was, and the part of the park where people might be picnicking, skate,
loop,
water feature, that kind of stuff. So we did it that way. And a big part of the elimination of the 2-hour parking was, if it wasn't going to be realistically enforceable, who wants to go to the park, to have them pack up their stuff and then move their car or whatever, you know, we just different. We can.
Bonnie.
I just didn't want to vote for both of them. I think they should be discussed separately
I guess
myself.
the motion probably should be clarified. Was that a motion on both or
What?
one of the two?
Well, the recommended action is just the handicap
handicap.
spaces. It has nothing to do with the 2-hour restriction, so.
What? But then why is it on here?
Don't know.
Those are both listed for council action. Oh, that was the intent anyway. I just wanted to offer a minority opinion on.
No. I'd like to vote for both of them separately, not because you might have one opinion. I mean, you might vote yes for one and want to vote no for the other. That's all.
And I wasn't entirely sure from the motion. I think it should be clarified as to, was it on just the first recommendation, or was it on both? May have been the intent that it was on both.
Who made the motion?
Scott did, I believe.
I did
I can tell
second.
you I was too busy trying to figure out what the motion was.
I believe Scott did.
I seconded it. Bill was the first one.
Bill? Handicap spaces. So that's what we're
Yeah, I
on.
was
We're on
looking at it.
handicap
Okay.
spaces here. Perfect.
Thank you.
So any other discussion on the handicapped spaces?
Lots of Two Rivers. At the sea. I'm not
There's a, you might want to check, there's a.
Sorry,
view
I'm
there.
sorry.
Yep.
I'm a little bit against this handicap space in the public area. You know, businesses that have handicap spaces are putting them on their own private property in a parking lot and so on. We have a handicap space by the community house because we put a wheelchair ramp at that doorway. And that's why there's a handicap space. And there's one other space in Two Rivers because people work a certain, I guess there was complaining about from somebody who wanted one by their house. I just don't want to see this become a thing where everybody says, well, I need a handicap space here and I need one there. I guess there's not much else to say, but that's why I'm not really in favor of this for that reason.
Jeff?
We just talking about this, otherwise we're all of this again in 12 to 18 months.
What? I didn't
You
hear
know what I
you.
mean? Shouldn't we just wait to decide any of this until the street is tore up and the park is built? Because otherwise we're gonna be revisiting all of this again with the parking and where to put parking spots and time limits. And it just seems kind of like we're, you know what I mean? We're gonna be talking about it again in another year or two. I mean, it's worked this long, this far, so. As long as it'll still work on it, but
I mean, you do have a point. We may have a different council by then. We may have a different public works committee by then, but. Scott?
I think, Tracy, wasn't it told to go to that committee because the city council wanted some decision on where the handicap spaces were
Yeah, it
gonna
was
be?
referred back to us because we couldn't come to a decision beforehand, so we were trying to.
So that's why we, as a committee, talked about it and we recommended those two spots, because we were asked to come up with some spots for handicapped accessibility.
Jim's not here tonight. I'm not sure about a requirement for on-street handicap spots. I was just gonna say, if future councils can change anything, it would at least result in a plan set being put together for the project that says this, and a message to the public, this is what's intended here, with regard to those handicap spaces. And with regard to the other one as well. But doesn't mean it won't change, but it might be, assuming the park goes forward and gets built, might be good on the first day to know where the handicap spaces are.
I share with Bonnie some, go ahead, Darla, I'm sorry.
No, you.
No, go ahead.
Right now, the way the park is designed, up by the bandstand in the front, that's handicap or, wheelchair accessible. So in my mind, if you're going to be able to get into, sit in front of the bandstand and enjoy the bands in your wheelchair, wouldn't it be nice to be able to have handicap parking fairly close so you can get from point A to point B? I think that it's very, very nice if we have these two spaces, mainly because then people in our community will be able to enjoy this project that we're putting a lot of time, effort, and money into. And I honestly don't understand why you would be against that. That just, I don't get it.
Can I answer that?
Sure.
How many handicapped people are in Two Rivers? Just two? No, I'm serious because, you're putting, you say you want these projects to bring in young people and make it useful, and yet everything is being decided for, and I'm not, I don't want to say something I regret, but at the same time, that's why it's public parking. Do you know how little parking we have here? That's why. There's so little parking in this downtown.
I would agree somewhat with Bonnie on that. There's 11 spots over there. Are we really gonna try and make, I think it's 11, 10 or 11, something like that? To make 2 of them handicap seems a little in excess. To make 1 makes sense for sure, because you should have some handicap parking for the park in itself. I mean, you're gonna have people that are gonna wanna come to birthday parties that are there that may be in a wheelchair. You're gonna have people that are gonna come and go to the concerts. But at the same time, how do we wanna make, what is that, like 15% of it handicap parking? That does seem like a lot when we have limited parking. Don't know that's enough to sway my vote to no, but I don't know that I really like it either. Anybody else? Otherwise, we're gonna send this to vote.
Okay, to be clear, we're just voting on the handicap.
Just on the handicap, that is the motion. Yep. Nobody else? Fire off a roll call. Jamie, please.
Right, the
Stop the
motion
madness.
is to approve the handicap spaces as
Yep,
recommended.
number 2.
Bill Leclerc. Darla Leclerc.
Aye.
Tim Petrie.
Aye.
Jason Ring.
Aye.
Bonnie Shimilunas.
No.
Scott Steckmesser.
Aye.
Adam Husky.
No.
Jeff Dalkey.
No.
Tracy Coach.
Aye.
Motion carries 6-3.
Okay, let's discuss number 1 then, the on-street parking restrictions as recommended by the Public Works Committee, because we did not really touch on that. So let's get a motion on that, and it's on the agenda, so we're gonna try and get a vote to it. So thank you, Jeff. Do I have a second? Thank you, Scott. Council discussion.
I hear in the discussion that an alternative to 2-hour parking is metered parking. Because somewhere I saw metered parking. It was discussed, and I
believe that was part of the discussion at the committee.
Okay, because I would never
that's-
vote
yeah,
to
but
see a
that's-
meter.
that's
If we
not
don't
what the
have a
motion
meter
is.
installed in Two Rivers now, why start?
That's not what the motion is, right?
I think that was something someone brought up.
Okay,
This
so
is-
this couldn't lead to that if we approve this. Okay.
And we're talking about not so much meters, we were talking about systems that they have in other places where app.
Okay, because this simply says remove, so remove would then mean that it's just unlimited parking is what it would say.
What is there's 2 recommended actions for number 1, so how are we going to craft this recommended action for just this issue?
You just make a motion, whoever makes it. These are recommended, that's not what.
We're
So-
voting separately on the both recommended then?
No, you.
We are
either vote
we are
yes or
voting on the
no.
recommended
That's
by
what that-
committee. That is what's in our packet. Our packet does not include the recommendation by the city manager. That is only on the
Okay.
agenda.
So the recommended action is to remove the 2-hour restriction, right?
Correct.
Okay.
On West Park and from south side of 18th, north side of 17th between Adams and Washington. That is what the recommendation is and the motion that's on the table.
I guess just in further comment to my recommendation, I would suggest an alternative would be to send it back to the Public Works Committee for more dialogue on this. I know, again, I was surprised when I read the minutes. I did talk to one of the principals at the business, and this isn't just about a business, but it's kind of relevant. Somebody's investing $2.5 million in what hopefully is a major attraction in our downtown. There was a concern there. There are zones other than infinite and 2-hour. There's 3-hour zones, there's 4-hour zones. I'm sure the chief can speak to enforcement. No, we can't. There's some question whether you can even legally chalk tires anymore, but there are ways to enforce parking, especially in downtown areas where you have marked spaces and it's pretty clear whether you're in that space or not. So that would be an alternative as well.
I just want to reiterate what the city manager said kind of at the very beginning of the initial conversation. And that is we hope to have a full-time code enforcement officer. You may have seen the posting that was really put out today for the most part. We hope to have a full-time code enforcement officer by mid-July. And we haven't had a full-time code enforcement officer for a long time, probably since the 90s. And so that would, I hope to have time available for someone to do more parking enforcement. It's true that we do not have a lot of time for proactive parking enforcement. We certainly handle it by complaint, but we may be able to do more proactive parking. So the whole discussion that may have taken place at the committee level, board level, just to let you know, this is what the plans are moving forward. And so there may be more of an ability. So I just wanted that, if that's in your mind of thinking about the enforcement piece of it, to just maybe kind of remove that. All I have.
Anybody else want to speak to that? I would say for me, the only concern that I have really was the fact that it was discussed to be, everything seemed like the discussion was around Cool City Brewing and not for the better of the whole community and the park in itself. Listening from what the members of that committee spoke to just previously, that would be concerning for me, to create a policy based on just a business, one business in front of it and not the better of all the businesses around that area. And for the park of which we're building, 2-hour parking, I think it is a little harsh because of the fact that you could be in that park for more than 2 hours, and we hope people are, whether it's a concert, whether it's skating, maybe a birthday party, that can all go over 2 hours. And I think if we keep it at 2 hours, which is not the recommended action here, but if we kept it to 2 hours, I think we'd be adversely affecting our park and what we're trying to do in that park. I know Greg shares concerns with that, but and his concerns are valid because someone could really park there all day and hog that spot and not allow others to enjoy the park at the same time. But we also don't want to cut people's stay at the park or at an area of business short either.
Point I may be lying, but I seem to recall we do have some 4-hour zones in town. We've heard the beauty shop argument, Now for me, it's 20 minutes to get my hair cut. Obviously, I don't get it colored. But 2 hours doesn't always cut it for some professional services. So there are areas between status quo and without restriction. And they're all probably only going to get enforced on a complaint basis for the most part.
Until our new service officer starts, though. Chief said that was in his plans.
And then very limited proactive.
Right.
Yeah.
Scott.
So I'm speaking for myself, not for the rest of the committee members, but it had nothing to do with the new business going up. Most of our discussion was for the park. That's why it's on the north side and the south side of the community house block, I guess I would call it. So it's on both sides of that block leading up to the park. That's where we were addressing the removal of the 2-hour parking.
I was just going based off the comments that were brought up.
And I
about
just,
people
I just wanna
enjoying
make sure
beer and
that
stuff like
we
that.
weren't really basing it on the business. It was for the park.
Jason.
Is parking there a concern right now as it stands? Because I don't know, this is one of those things where I feel like if there's nuisance parking there, it could be addressed. But if nobody's being a nuisance with parking there longer than 2 hours, then is it really being ticketed? And would changing that affect things or change things in that way?
It is not a problem right now at all. I think the makeup of that block and what you see going on there on a day-to-day basis doesn't really call for situations where people are there more than 2 hours. Wells Fargo doesn't exist anymore. It's only the post office. You might have some people for a funeral, but even that, 2 hours or so, and they have their own parking lot. The community house has some programming, but a lot of that is also after the time restriction, the time of day. So what's going to change? This is all what's going to happen. I think you're going to see a change, a huge change. I hope we see a humongous change there in behaviors and parkings and things like that. And the police department's not recommending any particular time, and you decide what time you feel is appropriate. I agree that 2 hours isn't enough for the park or perhaps even a business there. And whether it's 3 or 4, and there's another place in the city that has it or doesn't have it, doesn't really matter. We'll enforce whatever the restriction is.
Are there currently, do employees park in front of the community house, or do they park in the lot and back? Because that building does have a lot. So if employees parking out there taking up spots that residents or other people could be using, and there's a lot, is that part of this or?
Yeah, I guess I can't speak to that in particular. I would imagine that there are.
They do presently.
But
That could free up some parking spots if parking is
It
an
certainly
issue.
can. And when you're talking about city employees, you can tell them where to park too, to some extent, so.
Thank you.
Okay. Got something?
I had a question about, actually was the last thing that you voted on. Are we gonna accidentally, kind of like set a precedence for stuff with handicap parking? I think that's what you were getting at, not that, well, this is what we did last time, kind of sets a precedence, and now that's, hope that we're not.
I don't think we are. I hope we're not. It's not certainly something that I would be in favor of. Obviously, I wasn't in favor of the motion in general, but I don't think so.
Jack, I don't think there'd be a legal precedent. I mean,
No.
yeah, you're always vulnerable to a member of the public or another council member saying, well, you did this in this instance. But as far as a binding precedent, I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
Okay, any further discussion on this one with the 2-hour parking? Seeing none, let's send this over to Jamie for a roll call vote. Jamie?
Darla Leclerc.
No.
Petrie. Jason Ring.
No.
Bonnie Shimulunis.
Just want to make this clear. We're voting to take 2-hour parking away, correct? I'm just being surprised at all the no's. That's all. No.
Scott Steckmeister.
You got
Well, I
company,
mean, I
Bonnie.
always was going to do that, but I thought everybody was kind of leaning that way.
No.
Adam Husky.
No.
Jeff Delkey.
No.
Tracy Coach.
No.
Bill Leclerc. Have all no votes.
That just means we'll talk about it.
So I think we should maybe make a motion to send this back for further discussion. I don't know that we needed all-day parking, but I think we should come up with some kind of a time frame. 2 hours, maybe 3, 4. Obviously, this one was 2 hours, 3 or 4. Thank you. Do I have a second? Okay, Darla, perfect. Any discussion on this? Anything that you want to?
At the time is we were just thinking it's either 2 hours or nothing. I don't think we were really.
We were thinking about the police.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
So
Welcome.
going back, we're going to take a look at not allowing it necessarily all day, but having some kind of a time, just not 2 hours, and certainly not 1 hour, please.
Okay, no.
Please don't come back with 1 hour.
No, it'd be the other way.
You'd be killing me then.
10-minute
All right,
voting.
so we're going to send this back over to Public Works, and I think we can do an all in favor on that. So all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Perfect. On to 12 for information only. Greg? Yep, sorry.
As long as we're still on the same subject, could we send the parking back too? So they can get more clarification to make sure
What parking?
the handicap parking?
It passed.
Oh, or the other one.
No, it went no. The other one went no.
Oh, I went no.
Yeah.
Okay.
We all voted no
Right, that's fine.
to scrap that one. Yeah, the handicap passed 5-3, 6-3? 6-3. All right, information only. Greg,
Oh, sorry. Lost my page.
Sorry.
Got all excited there.
you got two if you want me to speak. I
Yeah,
can.
it's pretty basic. We got a work session next Monday. Again, those are live streamed. By the way, I'll have some numbers to share. I just heard them from Mr. Powell, our IT manager today. If we want to go back on charter, or excuse me, on cable, that's going to be expensive. So I'll just preview that. That'll be one of the topics, as well as what we discussed earlier tonight for the work session. And then, assuming there are no objections and that you don't want to meet on 4th of July, the intent would be to schedule the first meeting in July for Tuesday, the 5th. Is that a problem for anybody? Nothing says it has to be the very next night, but we're assuming most of you would be available. Okay. That's all I have. And as you noted, there's no closed session requested tonight.
Then skip 13 on to adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Make that motion.
Thank you, Jeff. Do I have a second? Thank you, Darla. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Good night.
Hour later than what I wanted.
John's doing good.
Minutes is pretty